My name is Pat Arsenal. I'm the chairperson of the Raymond Coalition for Youth Board of Directors, and I just want to give a little welcome here. I'm going to start out by showing you what our 10-year goal is that we set last year in 2021. You might think it's pretty lofty, but here we go. Our 10-year goal is by 2031 to eliminate substance misuse among our youth in the greater Raymond community. Think about that and what that would look like. I know especially our friends in law enforcement would be very excited to see that happening. And with everyone in this room, as lofty as that may seem, that goal is attainable. I'd like to move on to start thanking some of our sponsors. First off, I'd like to thank New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. Next, we have our legacy sponsors, Exeter Hospital, Walmart Logistics, M&T Bank. Our engagement sponsor, Aggregate Industries. Our empowerment sponsor, AmeriHealth Caritas, New Hampshire. Our education sponsors, DNC Primary Care, Granite State Specialties, Palmer Gas and Oil, and the Raymond Area Rotary Club. And our advocate sponsors, Edward Jones, the office run by Dustin Ramey. Epping General Dentistry, Jackson Lumber and Millwork, and Petra Paving Incorporated. I'd also like to take a moment to introduce our board of directors. Not with us right now, but in spirit, is Superintendent of Schools of Raymond, Terry Leatherman, Alarms Plus Systems owner, John Gagliardi. And here with us today we have Dustin Ramey, Jessica Karen, Carrie Cooligian, Ali Bosquin, Devin Tonti, Mark Hassen, and myself, Pat Arsenal. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Executive Director, Celeste Clark. But before I do that, I think it's important that we recognize that this is Raymond Coalition for Youth's 20th anniversary. And for all 20 years, Celeste has been at the head of that better and better, getting us to where we need to be and where we need to keep going. So, I know that Celeste usually gets the second biggest round of applause at these things right behind the youth presenters, but this year especially, let's give up to Celeste.
Thank you. That's not how you were supposed to be getting up there, Todd. Thank you, everybody. It's an honor to be here with all of you today, and I am so excited to be celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Raymond Coalition for Youth. It is not me, and I will get to that in the slides. It is all of us together, working together, and I'm so proud of the work that we do, and I am so proud of the fact that I'm still here from where we started. It's 20 years, and to think of all the great things that we've accomplished together as a community. When we started back in 2000, the University of New Hampshire came to us with a grant because Raymond had higher rates of substance misuse compared to reported use among kids in the state of New Hampshire. I can tell you that in 2019, when we had our data, it was the first time that Raymond, New Hampshire had lower rates of substance misuse compared to the state of New Hampshire. That was a huge accomplishment. Along the way, we've done a lot of great things. We've empowered young people through our youth action groups. One of our young people actually went and spoke to the President of the United States for parents like here today, and that was quite an honor. I mean, get that invitation and to have to identify a young person to bring with me, that was a pretty special day. But that just speaks to the work that we do here in Raymond together. So, when we first started, we were a grassroots coalition, and we still are. Didn't really know what that meant when I first got involved. I got involved because I was the parent of 4 young children in the Raymond School District, and when the university came to the community and explained to us what they wanted to do, that was something that was very concerning to me, and I wanted to be part of making a difference, so I got involved. Through the years, I've learned grassroots is very important because we're actually doing the work in our community that our community needs us to do. It's not somebody who's coming with a pocket of money and saying, here, we think you have a problem and you need to go fix that. We actually, identify the problem in our community and work together to work on that. So, I always print my slides and then I always forget to flip through them. So, this here, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Definitely speaks to the work that we do. And my dear friend, Ann Douglas, is here in the room today. And she's been with us for a long part of this journey. When the coalition first started, we unfortunately lost 2 young people to suicide, and NAMI New Hampshire reached out to us and asked us if we would partner with them on a new program, the Connect Suicide Prevention Program. And we were excited to do that, and I was ready to run down the road, and Anne actually gave me a little Porsche car that I still have on my desk today, and she taught me that you can't just run and do something. You really need to engage the people in the process, and you need to stop and meet people where they're at and get them involved. And Anne is very dear to me, so thank you. But this is what the coalition does, right? We can go checking boxes and we can get things done to satisfy a grant, but we really want to make a difference. We really want that work to count. And as I look around the room, I see people that we've worked with for many, many years. Eddie Edwards was a huge part of the work that we started doing when he was with New Hampshire Liquor Enforcement, and we just had a conversation about that. But this is what the coalition is, a grassroots coalition. And when we think about prevention, if you think about when the coalition started and where we are today, just with a show of hands, how many in the room, this is your first prevention coalition that you've been at? I think there's more of you, actually. When I was doing the seating chart, there was a lot of new people. And I apologize if you don't like your seat. It's not easy seating 140 people. But a lot of new people have come to the table over the years. I think 20 years, a student could have been born in the Raymond community, gone through the whole school system, graduated, and being on their own right now. So that's a long time, and that's a lot of people who are impacting. It's a lot of people to engage and educate about why the coalition is so important also. So we're here today because we empower the community to promote positive youth development and reduce youth suicide and youth substance use and suicide risk. That's what brings us into the room. What is a coalition? And this has come up a lot in my friend Carlton Hall. I stole this resource from his website, who is our speaker today. This is really important to understand. A coalition is a formal arrangement for cooperation and collaboration between groups or sectors of the community in which each group retains its identity, but all agree to work together towards a common goal of building a safe and healthy community. That means all of you are part of the work that we do. The coalition is not Celeste Clark. I am not the coalition. We are the coalition together. And that's hard for some people to understand. We work with law enforcement and the schools and our healthcare providers. And actually, that's my next slide. If I was paying attention. In order to get a drug-free community grant, which we got in 2010, you have to show that you have collaboration amongst all of these partners and they're all actively involved in your work, which we do. Obviously, we've had that since 2010. It was a requirement to even apply for the grant. And when you walked in, hopefully all of you got a dot and you put it on the little map that's out in the hallway, so we're going to be able to see an exact replica of this as it stands for who's in the room today, which is exciting to see all of the people who are part of all that we do. And I actually forgot to say when I started that I want to give a huge shout out to my staff, Pam Turcott and Pam Baker, who are amazing. And I also want to thank all the young people who are here in the room. You're going to talk. They guide all the work that we do, and we're really happy to have them here. And when Pam and I have meetings with them, I tell them all the time that there's a whole community of adults who care about you and support you. And while they may not be in the room with you today, they really exist. So a lot of them are here today to see all of the adults that are here that care about them. So that's really special. So why prevention? And I'm going to say this word wrong, like I always have with Anne. The ecological model, probably wrong. If we think about why prevention is important, at the bottom is an individual, that would be you as an individual or myself. And then your relationships with your family. The next layer is the community, and then societal. All of those things are affected by substance misuse, or addiction, I should say. And then on your right-hand side are all of the things that we could prevent issues from happening when we think about addiction. So substance abuse, violence, suicide risk, and educational attainment. They're all kind of together. And if we can prevent substance misuse and addiction, we're going to impact all of those things for all of those different layers of that model. And I know that's really deep, and it's probably a whole day-long class, and I just threw it on a slide. So our theme for today, and you all have this card in your little gift packet, is remember hope is a good thing. Maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. My husband watches movies over and over again. I walk upstairs and I'm like, oh my God, you're watching this again. But this is one movie that I love, and I will sit down and watch with him. And because of this quote, I absolutely love this quote. Does anybody know what movie this is from? Shawshank Redemption, yes, thank you. And I know it's surprising that's a Stephen King movie, but this is a very important quote. And I know hope gets thrown around a lot lately, and people talk about hope and what that is. And when we sat down with our young people and we were working with them and trying to explain what hope was, it's hard to wrap your head around what that is, because I can't physically give you a piece of hope. That's not what hope is. It's not a tangible, it's not a mug. So this is the definition of hope. Hope is an optimistic state of mind that is based on an expectation of positive outcomes, with respect to events and circumstances in one's life or the world at large. So that's a lot to digest. That's a lot to digest for a young person, no matter how well things are going in their life. And to have them sit down and talk about a state of mind. How do you explain a state of mind to them? That's sometimes difficult. They have their presentation at the end of the morning talking about what hope is to them, and they did an amazing job with that, each of them individually. So it's hard for them to have hope when they have so much going on in their lives. They're worrying about their test scores, they're worrying about their grades, they're worrying about their parents paying the bills. How are they going to heat their home? How are they going to put food on their table? These are real issues that our kids are facing and are dealing with. And even if we think it's in our adult world, these things trickle down to them, and they live in that world underneath the adults in their life. So giving them hope is really important. We are a data-driven coalition. From the very beginning, as I mentioned, we started on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and we've collected that ever since. I shared some really good data with you at the beginning, which was exciting. But we had COVID, and COVID came into our world, and it locked all of us upside down in many different ways. And we have our Youth Risk Behavior Survey back for Raymond High School, and I'm going to share some of that data with you. And I correct myself. It's for the Raymond community, because the schools are just where we take these surveys, but the representation that comes out of that survey data represents our community. And we do take survey data from our middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th, and our high school. And we're very grateful to the school district for allowing us the ability to do that. So this is middle school data that I'm going to focus on first. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. 94% of them have not used any drug or alcohol in the past 30 days. And when we had a meeting, I was asked to find something positive in the data, and that's what I found. But we have work to be done, because and I want to say also, at our coalition meeting on November 10th, we're going to take a deep dive into this data. So if this fascinates you or interests you, please come to that meeting where we'll talk more about it. But you can see by looking at this chart, which has a lot going on, alcohol use amongst our students in the middle school has increased. Cigarette use is at 1%, and we know that that's something that has been on our radar because people have been talking about the conversion from cigarettes to vaping, but then we know vaping is going, what we've heard, vaping is going to turn into more cigarette use at some point, and that's reflected a little bit in this data. Vaping went up in our schools, and of the 3% of students who are vaping, 2% of them are vaping marijuana. So that's some very informative data that we were able to collect from our schools. Something for us to be aware of. Suicide and self-injury rates at the middle school, students who seriously considered suicide in the past 12 months, 24% of the students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade have seriously thought about this. And when we think about our kids feeling valued by the adults in the community, only 67% feel like they're valued. So we have a work to do as adults. We move on to Raymond High School. 82% of Raymond High School students have not used drugs or alcohol in the past 30 days. I want to get excited about that, but I want to caution all of you not to get excited about that. Because I mentioned that COVID was happening, we were coming out of COVID. There were a lot of students who weren't even present in the classrooms to take this survey, who are at highest risk and that we need to have services for. So while we look at the data, it's not really completely accurate, only because of the students who aren't participating. So for past 30-day use, this chart looks awesome, right? I mean, the rates have come down so much, but again, the caution piece. For alcohol use, marijuana, and again, we can see cigarette use went up in this category as well. And 18% of the students who took it reported vaping, and half of them, 9%, reported vaping marijuana. Something to be aware of. And this marijuana that they're vaping, the THC level in it is much higher than what you think of when you think of a typical joint or a leafy substance marijuana. So important to note. Suicide risk at Raymond High School. Students who seriously considered suicide in the past 12 months, 20% of our students. Again, not a complete reflection of the students, but important data for us to be aware of, and definitely something for us to be working with. 63% of our students at the high school feel like they matter to adults. We need these kids to know that we're here for them and that they matter and we care about them, and that's something that we definitely try to stress to our youth action kids, and that they do a really good job of going back into their school community and working on. Talking about the dangers of drugs and alcohol, 38% of students reported they have an adult who talked to them about this. John DeLena from the DA is with us today. He's going to tell us why that is so important to increase that number. The drugs that are on our streets right now are deadly, and we have 62% of students who don't have somebody talking to them about drugs and alcohol. It only takes one caring adult. This is our Peter Benson book. If you haven't gotten a copy of it, we can get you a copy. But it's a quick read and tells you about the value of every adult in our community and the difference that they can make. Every child needs at least one caring adult. And we talk about prevention. Prevention doesn't have to be difficult. We've said this before. It's increasing awareness, decreasing access, and will decrease use. So let's talk about this. You all have a notepad in your folder. You can take that out, and you all have a pen and you've got in your little gift bag. And we're going to do a little quick activity. Everything we hear in the news, on TV, on social media is very confusing about what marijuana is today. Is it cannabis? Is it marijuana? Is it legal? Is it illegal? How many people are confused? So if you just number 1, 2, and 3 on your pad, and then you can answer the following questions: yes, no, or even put a question mark. Timmy Reardon says I'm going too fast. So number 1, is there medical marijuana in New Hampshire? Yes or no? And it is a bonus if you know what it's called. Number 2, is marijuana decriminalized in New Hampshire? Yes or no, or question. And number 3, is it legal in New Hampshire? Many people can't answer these questions. They're confused. We talk to adults and children alike, and they don't know because of all the messaging they hear. So I actually don't have a prize. The prize is your gift bag already, but So number 1, we do have therapeutic cannabis, which is the correct term in the state of New Hampshire for anybody with a qualified medical condition and a card from a doctor saying that they qualify for this. They can get it through the state. Number 2, marijuana is decriminalized in the state of New Hampshire, which means if you're caught with a personal amount of marijuana, you would get a citation very similar to a parking ticket, which you could send in the mail and pay. Number 3, marijuana is illegal in the state of New Hampshire. And we have some very strong young leaders who went to Concord this past spring and raised awareness and provided information to the state legislators. They were featured in the newspaper, and we're extremely proud of them for the work that they did. So why is marijuana not good for New Hampshire? There's a lot of controversy about this. People are promised all kinds of things from the marijuana industry. Rockingham County already has a drug problem. We're classified on the high-intensity drug trafficking area map. So we don't need to increase any more drug activity in this community. In the New York Post this past weekend, thank you, DeLena, shared this article with me. The San Diego Emergency Room Department is averaging 37 people a day for issues dealing with marijuana, most of them involving psychosis. Our young people already have a problem with their mental health. They're already struggling. We should not be increasing access to this. We need to learn more about THC and what that means. And I circled the long-term harms, psychosis, depression, anxiety, and suicide. These are already issues. We should not be increasing access. The industry, the marijuana industry, promises us a lot of things, and there's supposed to be this big bucket of money that's going to be coming. In Colorado, for every dollar in tax revenue from the sale of marijuana, it costs them $4.50, counteracting the legalization effects. Drug driving is now involved in 1 in 4 deaths in Colorado. I think our law enforcement, they have their hands full with people driving way too erratically in the state right now, so we can't afford to add more erratic drivers. And on top of our kids, not everyone's doing it. Not every state has legalized marijuana. 31 states have not. So we can't buy into the fact that, oh, New Hampshire's a holdout. 31 states are a holdout at this point. This was a union leader last month on a Sunday. My husband hates when the union leader comes in, or any newspaper I start reading it. It's like, calm down. A cannabis island. New Hampshire is a cannabis island. Don't we all want to live on an island? I know a few people who just visited an island and had a great time. Let's keep New Hampshire an island. And this interesting quote is in there by a man that was interviewed who owns 3 marijuana businesses and was waiting to come to New Hampshire. The cannabis industry tends to object to the term recreational, just like it tends to prefer the term cannabis to marijuana. So if we start changing our language to cannabis, we're doing exactly what they want us to do. And we can't collect information on the Youth Risk Behavior Survey that says, have you used cannabis? Have they used marijuana is the question. So that's the information that we should be reporting on. So let's just keep off the grass in New Hampshire. So clearly with the data and what the challenges are we're facing, we have some work to do. You're all invited to come to our monthly coalition meetings. The next one again is on November 10th, 9 to 10:30 at the Raymond Baptist Church. You're all welcome. This week is Red Ribbon Week, and hopefully you have red ribbons on your table. But our young people and our school district and our community has completely bought into this. We've done a great job having conversations right down to our preschool age group in the schools. So it's very important to promote a happy, healthy, drug-free life. In our medication take-back event, there's no rest for prevention people this month. Our prevention take-back event is on Saturday, tomorrow. I won't be sleeping late. At Hannaford and Raymond, 10 to 2. Interesting fun fact. In Raymond alone, since 2010, we've collected more than 2,900 pounds of medication, equal to a small hippo, a female hippo. They're pretty heavy. So that just speaks to the importance of people going into their medicine cabinets, having a conversation, and getting their medication safely disposed of. When Coalition started back in 2002, Friends, the sitcom, which many of you hopefully have seen, it was a very good show, was the top 10 sitcom at that time. Matthew Perry is featured on the cover of People magazine this week. It was perfect timing. And he's releasing a book talking about his struggles with addiction and how he's almost died several times. It's a very interesting story, but it's one that was very hard for him to share. But if you see his quote, it's a story that's difficult but filled with hope, and that's why he's sharing the message that people can recover and people can get well and they can be functioning. So that's really important. Our work is not funded by a pot of gold per se, it's funded by grants and fundraisers, so I don't know a pot of gold. Our annual gala is going to be on March 11th. We would love for all of you to come. Justin McKinney is going to be joining us again, and he is hilarious. So I'm just putting that out there. Or if any of you like to do gala committee planning, we would love to have you on the committee too. And this is something that we're very proud of. This is definitely a community effort. our Cam Bear Memorial Disc Golf Course that's located at Riverside Park in Raymond. This is an example that the coalition doesn't just deal with substance misuse and suicide risk and talk about those issues. We provide opportunities for our community to come out and have fun, be with their family, enjoy activities outside. This project was amazing. Several people in the room are part of it. The community really came together for this, and it's being widely used. I know other people walk around town and people say, oh, the disc golf park is great. I've only thrown one once with Pat last weekend. You have your notes, so you just wrote something. If you want to leave us a note, you want to tell us something, what went well, it didn't go well, something about the coalition, we would love to hear from you. You can leave all of your notes in the middle of the table. Data collection for all of your 3 questions. And you're the ambassadors for the work that we do here at the coalition, and we're grateful to have you here. If you learn something new, take it back to the community, tell somebody if you can encourage them to get involved. The majority of people in this room didn't read a note somewhere and decide to come. The majority of the people in this room had someone say, do you know about the coalition? Would you like to learn more? And that's how people get involved. That's how that network grows. People learn about what we do. And if you're posting any pictures, don't forget to tag us, RCFY. Also in your folder is our annual yearbook. My husband pointed out there is a mistake, so I'll see how many. It's like a teacup or something you can find. There's a mistake in the book. I love that man. But the book is a compilation of all of the work that we've done over the past year and all of the people, again, who are part of the coalition. So I'm going to leave you with this. Hope. If you can carry one thing throughout your entire life, let it be hope. Let it be hope that better things are always ahead. Let it be hope that you can get through even the toughest of times. Let it be hope that you are stronger than any challenge that comes your way. Let it be hope that you are exactly where you are meant to be right now, and that you are on the path to where you are meant to be, because during these times, hope will be the very thing that carries you through. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Maggie Hassen. She's done amazing things for our coalition. We have a drug-free community grant, and now we have a CARA, Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery grant. And I know Congressman Pappas is here, he's next. Senator Hassen's first. Both of them have supported the work that we do, and we're so grateful to both of them at a federal level. So.
Thank you very, very much, not only for the introduction, but for your extraordinary work. 20 years, and a much bigger room, right? Because your work, the work of the entire coalition, has really seen this growth and seen this increasing strength in Raymond and beyond, as people come together to focus on what's really important and to focus on strengthening our children and our youth and our communities, and as a result, our economy and our state and our country. So I am really grateful to everybody here. I don't want to miss anybody I should acknowledge. I am very pleased to be here with Congressman Pappas. I am very grateful to be here with Special Agent John DeLena, who I've done a lot of work with. And I'm very grateful to all the members of law enforcement, educators, families, everybody here, but particularly the young people who are here, because you are all making an extraordinary difference, and you are gaining the skills that will mean you will keep making a difference throughout your lives, and that's of course what you need to do in a democracy. That's what makes this democracy work. So I can't tell you what an honor it is for me to be here with all of you this morning. To all of the awardees who are going to be recognized later on, not clear to me whether my crack team is going to yank me before I actually get to see you get the awards. So if I do miss that, just know how grateful I am for your work, and congratulations. These awards are all really, really well deserved. I want to talk a little bit just about the difference that young people in New Hampshire have made and are making on this very, very important issue of substance misuse as well as mental health. What it means, what your activism has done to strengthen not only your community but our state. As you all know, I was governor as we began to see a big increase in fentanyl use in New Hampshire and a big increase in fentanyl overdoses. And our first kind of order of business was just to save lives. So we did a lot to try to understand where fentanyl was coming from, to get Narcan into the hands of first responders and to families, save lives, try to figure out how to boost and expand the prevention, treatment, and recovery system we had in New Hampshire. We obviously didn't have enough resources at all. We began to make some of that progress thanks to so many people in this room. And then I became a senator, and I still remember going to a meeting in Plastow of individuals who were in recovery, but they were meeting too with families who had lost somebody to an overdose or to the disease of substance use disorder. And I still remember a little girl whose name was Jenna. When I first got to the event, it started with a potluck supper and then everybody met. Her parents were kind of whispering to her and kind of nudging her to me the way adults do when they want a young kid to go talk to somebody. And of course, children being wise are like, why are you pushing me to go talk to somebody I've never met? So finally, as I was leaving the meeting, and it was a tough meeting because there were families there who were still grappling with the loss of a loved one to an overdose. But it was also a hopeful meeting because there were people who were in recovery. And as I left, this little girl finally decided to join me. I said, do you want to walk me to my car? And she did, and I said, what is it you want to talk to me about? And she said, I want to tell you what my life has been like since my cousin died of an overdose. She said, he was like my big brother. She said, he went to jail from time to time and he just told me that was time out for adults. But you know, my aunt is sad all the time and my mom is sad all the time. And Senator, I just want you to know, I was so proud of that 9-year-old little girl. But I was so heartbroken that a 9-year-old little girl in New Hampshire had to tell her United States Senator that things were not all right and that these awful opioids were killing people. So I have been proud to partner with all of you to work to turn the tide. And the work has taken me down to the southern border, occasionally with Special Agent DeLena, to make sure that our law enforcement has the tools they need to detect synthetic opioids like fentanyl. It's taken me to China to confront the Chinese government officials who were turning a blind eye to fentanyl production in their country. And then we came back and we passed a law so we have the power to sanction them if they don't live up to their commitments. It has taken me to healthcare facilities to talk with healthcare professionals. It has meant that I have met with law enforcement here in New Hampshire. It has meant that I have spoken with my fellow senators about what they're hearing from their constituents. Because I was pretty sure if there was a little girl named Jenna in New Hampshire who had this experience, there was a little girl in every other state in the country, and many more than that, who had that experience, who could talk to their senators and their members of Congress. So we've been able to do some things, and we need to do a lot more. We've been able to get a 900% increase in funding for opioid prevention, treatment, and recovery here in New Hampshire, to really begin to build out that system that will help us get to the place where there is less and less demand for opioids in our state, right? And this has been a partnership from community level to state officials to federal officials throughout. It has meant that I've partnered up with Senator Murkowski from Alaska. We're trying to get rid of the barrier called the X waiver that keeps physicians from being able to prescribe medication-assisted treatment, because we know medication-assisted treatment is the gold standard. right? And so we pushed the administration, they've taken some steps, but we ultimately need to pass this law, and Senator Murkowski and I continue to work on that. And your voices have been really important in getting people to understand why this is so important. We've instituted the 988 hotline. So if you know somebody in mental health crisis, they can call 988. And if they are a veteran and they push 1 at the prompt, it will be veteran-informed care and support. We are working to strengthen mental health awareness and give educators the tools they need in schools. And that was a bipartisan effort that Senator Ernst and I did. And we are incentivizing schools to use evidence-based practices as they train up their personnel. And then, of course, we need to increase mental health workforce in New Hampshire and around the country. And that's also something we've appropriated significant dollars to do, something I'm also working with Dartmouth on to try to make sure that we can get people who are trained in substance use disorder and mental health treatment in this state and really fanning out across the state. So that gives you a little bit of an example of what we are working on, but I will come back to the fact we're working on this because of everybody in this room and your advocacy, your ability to connect and make sure that we understand what's happening on the ground. And the work continues to stand up to the opioid manufacturers who, of course, fueled so much of this problem. One of the more recent pieces of outreach I've gotten from a young person in New Hampshire was from a teenager, an adolescent, who had spent over a month in an emergency room in New Hampshire for psychiatric emergency care. I know that, again, nonpartisan issue, we are all working together to expand the mental health workforce and mental health treatment capacity in this state, because nobody should go through what that young woman went through, which she wrote about in excruciating detail to me so that I would know what it is like to suffer a psychiatric crisis in New Hampshire and not be able to get appropriate treatment and be isolated in an emergency room for days and days on end. That's something we also have to continue to work on, and that will have a direct connection to the issue that we're addressing here this morning. Last thing, Celeste, I love the way you talked about hope. For me, hope is in this room, hope is in our communities throughout New Hampshire, hope is in our democracy. I want the young people here to think about what it means to live in a democracy and why we value it so, so strongly. We're the live free or die state. The power of a Jenna, the power of the teenager who wrote me a letter and said it's unacceptable to be stuck in an emergency room for 45 days. That power exists because we live in a democracy where every voice matters, every person has the power to make a difference, every person is recognized for the potential that they have and the difference they can make. That is a fragile thing. And over the course of human history, it doesn't happen by accident. It happened because our founders believed that every individual can make a difference and that their self-worth and dignity and potential has to be respected. That's what the Raymond Coalition is all about. That's what the young people who are powering it are all about. And that's why I am so hopeful about our future, because when we care about each other and fight for each other, there's no stopping us. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, I will introduce Congressman Chris Pappas, who's also with us this morning, to share a few words.
Thank you so much, Celeste. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. It's an honor to be able to join with you here today, and I want to thank Senator Hassen for those comments and her commitment to this work. to the board, Pat and others that are here, the staff of the coalition, all the supporters across the community. It takes so many hands to come together and to continue this effort through 2 decades. So congratulations on 20 years of making an impact and making a difference, and especially to members of law enforcement that are here. Thank you for your commitment to the state and what you do each and every day. It's so crucial. We know that this issue has impacted all of our families, all of our communities in New Hampshire, and I think the progress that you are showing in Raymond means that our drug-free communities funding, the CARA funding, you are good stewards of these dollars, and you are really a model program for communities all across our country, and I just want to commend you on that. The other milestone here, 9 years of this conference. It's also Red Ribbon Week. I was with a group earlier this week with DEA and others in Manchester. A lot of young people that are focused on this work, and to all of our young advocates here in this room. As Senator Hassen said, you give all the adults in the room a great deal of hope about what the future can look like. And you taking this issue into your own hands, you're becoming powerful advocates in a way that you can speak to your peers in an effective manner to the extent that many of the adults in the room just don't have that same capacity. So thank you for being a part of this. I think about so many folks that I have met during my time in office who have struggled, members of my own family, but people that I meet. I think it was probably 15 years ago or so when I started seeing the obituaries from high school classmates in the paper that it really hit home the experiences of folks across our state as they struggled with substance misuse. I remember one young person, and I know his mother quite well. She just marked the 5-year anniversary of his passing. And I remember meeting her at the funeral, and she was so distraught as any mother would be, and 5 years later, those feelings are just as raw for her and her other family members who survive and who live on. But she said to me that she wished there was something more that she could have done, that she fought hard, but she felt like she could have done more for her son. And knowing her and knowing what she went through over so many years, this kid was in and out of the correction system. He stole from her on a regular basis. He was a great kid and he was a hard worker, but he was not on the right path, and she did everything possible, worked with every possible agency in the community to get him the help that he needed, and ultimately he succumbed to substance use disorder. But no parent should be able to feel that way like they're on their own. We're all in this fight together, and I think that's what you all help show. This is a community-driven grassroots effort, as Celeste said, and we've come a long way over the last 10, 15 years in New Hampshire. Thanks to the advocacy of so many folks who have struggled, people that have lost family members. Thanks to our law enforcement community that continues to take these deadly substances off the street. Thanks to young people who have stepped forward and are making a difference. And you can measure it in terms of the statistics, and there are some encouraging, hopeful statistics, others that should cause some alarm and cause us to continue to work hard. But you can also measure this in terms of lives saved. And there is no doubt that there are people who are alive in the Raymond community today who are thriving because of what you all have done. And that's hard to measure, but that's very profound. So thank you for it. So I take these stories to heart in my work in Washington, and I joined Senator Hassen in many of these efforts as folks in the law enforcement community remind me often. This is an issue of supply and demand. This is both about interdicting substances as they're coming into this country, and we've taken steps to do that, and we have more work to do, but also to make sure that we are lowering demand and we're giving people opportunity and hope in communities across New Hampshire. And my commitment is there to continue to hear you out. I talk with Celeste often as we consider legislation in Washington. I've even taken votes against major drug reform when it didn't hit the right mark for New Hampshire. And so I really appreciate the intellectual resources that you bring to this, the passion and commitment that you bring to this. And I just really am thankful for it and wish it 20 more years and much more of success in the future, of changing lives and giving people hope and giving people the sense that someone's in their corner and someone is fighting for them. Thank you for being there for members of our community when they needed it the most, and congratulations on this conference here today.
Next, this is going to be a little harder for me, but I'm going to do it, and I've been practicing. I'm very excited to have Carlton Hall with us here today. And I'm going to give him a second to figure out where his stuff is. Here we go. All right. So, I met Carlton Hall. He has been all over the world, I might like to add, doing community building work, so it's very exciting to have him here today. I had mentioned back in 2010, the Coalition got a drug-free community grant, which was very exciting. I refer to it as the Academy Award of Coalition Grants when I so it was our third try and we finally got it. So it was very, very exciting. Part of getting that award is you need to go to Coalition Academy for 3 weeks. You need to send a team of 2 people. We had hired a new person for our staff, so she was somebody that I didn't really know very well, and I was going to Fort Indiantown Gap, Pennsylvania, to stay in an Army barracks. If any of you know me, an Army barracks. But with a whole bunch of people from around the world that I had no idea who they were. So, but it's all fine, it's all exciting. A few weeks prior to leaving, we found out that one of our adult children was struggling with substance misuse. It was something that we had expected, but it was confirmed prior to leaving, and it was very difficult to deal with. And I go back to that ecological model of how something affects an individual, a family, a community, and a society. And as an individual, that was so very hard to accept that fact that we suspected it, but when it's in your face, you can't deny it, and what that does to you. And then as a wife and a mother, and as a family, that was very difficult because I had to be there and we were all struggling through that together. And then as my role in the coalition, having just got this great news, I had a board member who was concerned about my ability to do my job because I couldn't take care of my own family and prevent this from happening in my own family. So my job that I loved so much was actually in jeopardy. So I took all that in a backpack and I went to Fort Indiantown, Gap, Pennsylvania. I'm feeling a little bit like a fraud for being there. And the morning started very, very early, and Carlton Hall was going to be the speaker, coming from, he at that time worked at CADCA, Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America. And he came in with his usual excitement and energy, and he was so amazing. And he sat up there and he told us that we were change agents and we were going to make a difference and how proud he was of us. And I thought, oh my God, I gotta leave. I'm not supposed to be here. And he said that he had 2 nephews who were struggling with substance misuse. And he needed all of us to help save the people who were struggling with substance misuse, because this affected so many people in the United States. And a woman in the next row next to me, she had actually lost her son to prescription drug misuse from a football accident. So there was more than just myself in the room. And Carlton was the head of Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, so he gave me such hope that day. And I just want to re-emphasize that you never have any idea where your words are going to make a difference and when you're going to give somebody hope. But I thought that I wasn't going to have a job, and I knew I had a struggle waiting for me at home, and Carlton changed that whole thing. So I am here today because of you. So with that,
good morning, everybody. Oh, wow, that was, whoa. Come on, New Hampshire. Good morning, y'all. It's good to see you, it's good to see you. Celeste, I love you, thank you. I appreciate you for everything that you have chosen to be. God bless you. I'm here, and I'm excited to be here. To be able to, within just the few short moments that I have, to share a number of ideas that I think may have some resonance and some value for you all. Raymond, you all are amazing. And actually, after I did a little bit of research, I found out that you are the right kind of crazy. You're like the kind of crazy that I vibe with. And because you have this thing that Dr. King referred to as audacity. And to do what you do, you need to be audacious. And so I just wanted to have an opportunity, and I'm thankful to Celeste and to Janet, and John and I haven't seen each other for quite some time. I'm going to embarrass him just briefly because I know he knows several ways of harming me. But he's an extraordinary leader who has inspired me to be better at what it is that I do. And so I want to thank Celeste, I want to thank Janet, I want to thank the coalition, I want to thank John, Senator Hassen, and the Congressman who just thank you for the leadership that you provide at the nation's level. It makes a difference. And I have been all across this country, and I see the difference that is being made by leaders like you. So thank you. Could you all give them a round of applause, please? So I'm going to try to do this, and hopefully the remote will work. I have a number of ideas. I probably have more ideas than I have time. And so show me when I have about 5 minutes left, all right? Just get up and do some jumping jacks or something. I'm going to keep talking until I see that. First idea. I found this on a social media post, maybe on Facebook, and I'm sorry, guys, I just dated myself because, yes, I am still on Facebook. Be disruptive. And what I loved about this is the definition that this person posted about it. It says, to be disruptive means to prevent something from continuing or operating in a normal way. And in a very real sense, that's what it is that we are all about. We're all about getting in the way of things that are seemingly becoming normalized in our society. And so here's what I want to share with you. Some of you might know the name Simon Sinek. He's kind of like this leadership guru. Became very well known because of a seminal book called Starting With Why. But there was something that he wrote in that book which seemed to me that had direct relationship and correlation with who we ought to be. He says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I'm here to say I've been in this field for quite some time, and I can tell you, we are really good at talking about our whats. But we have a struggle when it comes to allowing folks to understand and resonate with the why behind what we do. And what the idea that he was really trying to articulate here is that in order to create a movement for change, what is really necessary is you've got to find folks who believe what you believe. And that caused me to ask the question, what is it that we believe? And I can stand here, I'm telling you, I'm a preventionist. Any other preventionists here in the room? Absolutely right. And as a preventionist, I have to ask the question, what is it that we believe? Well, quite frankly, we believe in three things. We believe that the most effective way of addressing any problem is to prevent that problem before it starts. I believe that firmly. I believe also in the full engagement and empowerment of the community to not only see their role in understanding that problem, but also solving that problem. And the third thing I believe is to be guided by science in order to produce what we are referring to as population level change, right? This isn't too radical. I don't think there's anybody here in the room that would disagree with anything that I just shared. But why is that not resonating? So let's mention that I was with the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, and I spent 12 years helping to lead their training efforts and capacity building efforts around the nation. As a result of that, 5 years ago, though, my life changed radically. 5 years ago, the DEA actually put out a report that indicated that the misuse of prescription opioids was actually far worse than we had even thought of at that time, right? And these are old data, but it's still reflective. Basically, everywhere that you see some purple was in trouble. And so that caused me to think about the way we are dealing with the environments that we are responsible for. But another thing happened for me 5 years ago. 5 years ago, my wife and I became grandparents for the very first time. And I don't know if there are any other grandparents here in the room, but if you are, you already know what I'm about to say. Because when you become a grandparent, your life changes dramatically. Right. It's like God gives you a gift that you can't open until you become a grandparent. When you open it up, you find out that there's this whole level of love that you never even knew existed. It's like all I want to do right now is show you pictures. Here's the deal. My son and his wife gave me our first grandchild, my grandson Ethan, and then 10 days later, my daughter gave birth to twins. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. If you're doing the math right, I went from 0 to 3 in 10 days. I don't know how you all grew up here in New Hampshire, but that's apparently something in the water where I was from. And then, of course, my son is who he is. He couldn't stand that his younger sister had 2 and he only had 1, and so we now have 4. They call me Babu. That's Swahili for grandfather. And there's no sweeter sound in the world than to hear those children say, Babu. When I go to their homes to visit with them, I find something very strange. I'm expecting the heavens to open up. I'm expecting the trumpets to declare, Babu has arrived, right? But I find when I go to their homes that I have 2 degrees, but for the life of me, I can't figure out how to open up that doggone thing and navigate the stairs. And when I actually go for my snack downstairs, I find I can't open up the doggone cabinet. I can't figure out how to charge my phone. And I'm over 50. I don't want to be rude or crude, but there are some places I don't think ever should be restricted. But here's the point that I want to make here. Who's the priority in this environment? Is there any doubt who's the priority in this environment? Is it Babu? Absolutely not. Who's the priority in this environment? The children, right? Is there any doubt who the priority is in this environment? Absolutely 0 doubt who the priority is in this environment. Who's the priority in this environment? It's Halloween this weekend. Who's the priority in this environment? Because here's the thing, I'm on a mission. I go across the country, and what I am trying to share with folks is that the way my children, my grandchildren, has taught me to look at the work that we do is to help us to understand that prevention has to be about identifying the most vulnerable populations in our environment. And the environments or the spaces and places that place them at greatest risk, like the top of the stairs, is an invisible vulnerability that needs to be made blatantly obvious. Does that make sense to anybody here in the room? And if that's the case, then this ought to be what we are all about. This ought to be what Raymond is about. And so, what I'm sharing with you is that this is what prevention actually is. And the work that you all are doing is about making those invisible vulnerabilities blatantly obvious on behalf of those within our community that may have trouble navigating the stairs. Does that make sense to folks? And so here's what I am really proud of and hopeful about. Bridge building, right? Because never before in our history have we had to have public health and criminal justice work together as closely as they are working together now. And what I'm sharing with you is that the cornerstone of that bridge is prevention. And what brings me hope with respect to this is that when we're talking about the youth in action, and I just met my friend Tim, who has been a part of that and helped to lead and bring some leadership to that, or your work that you're doing engaging communities around a cleanup effort, or what is it that you're doing to advocate and bring light to some of the hidden dangers that are associated with some of the legislation that's come to pass, or whether it's you're working toward promoting mental health and preventing suicide within your communities, or partnering with extraordinary leaders here in this community to try to make this a safer place. Raymond Coalition for Youth has been the cornerstone for building the bridges that are making this community safer, healthier, and more convenient for your young people's growth. Does that make sense to anybody in the room? If it does, give yourselves a round of applause for who you are. Because we are living in a time where I believe, as Dr. King shared, some fiercely urgent nows. And while we are dealing with an opioid crisis across our nation, we are also dealing with this incredible debate that we're engaged in around our country at the exact same time as the growing voices that are trying to convince us that hallucinogens are medication. I've heard that script somewhere before, and new psychoactive substances that are coming from outside of our borders, trying to bring dangers to us. I don't have to go into detail with respect to the dangers that are associated with meth that is on the rise in our community. And how many of you remember when all we were talking about was the vaping issue and the vaping crisis that was growing in our concerns around that, and all of that happened before COVID. Right? And COVID, as we all know, even though we've worked as hard as we've worked, and we actually saw some progress that was being made, we were actually making progress. We all know that those numbers are now going in an unwanted direction at this time, and in fact, everything the pandemic has touched has gotten worse. So, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, put out a report that indicated that there may be some members within our own communities that are at higher risk, greater vulnerability as it relates to the issues and the challenges that we have. So it has forced us to broaden our vocabulary, to think better about the work that we've been doing for the last 20 years. And so we've had to learn things like behavioral health disparities and ways in which we were not doing when you came to the academy that first time, right? So what are the differences in outcomes and the differences in services that we need to pay attention to? Senator Hassen talked a little bit about the treatment issue and the treatment challenges that we have in our society. All I'm trying to share with you is that there may be members of our society and members of our community that are accessing those services and those supports in a way that is not as effective as others. And so what I want to do is I want to share with you some of the insights that I've been able to glean when I was working and partnering with extraordinary leaders like John around the nation, and some of the things that kind of came to the fore for me. And I'll start off with this. I was working in a particular community in Pennsylvania, and here is the acting prosecutor, and I know I've been in living in Washington, D.C. area for far too long because you start redacting everything. I'm sorry, just bear with me for a half a second, But what you see here is that as a result of the growing, emerging issue of the crisis in this community, the leading prosecutor in this community decided to call a meeting to talk about the urgency of this matter. Can anybody look at this picture and tell me what's wrong with this picture? Empty seats, right? Empty seats. And actually, I happen to know that this woman actually works for that man, so the picture looks actually worse than it is, right? But here I began to think about who's responsible, who's accountable for those empty seats. Is it the fault of those folks that didn't show up? Or do we have to have a new kind of conversation? And that conversation needs to be about the importance of engagement, right? been trained in the academy. We've done a really good job of helping folks understand how to utilize the public health model approach towards addressing this. We know about risk factors and protective factors. We know about a comprehensive set of strategies. But how many of you will agree with me that there is this first step that we need to be paying more attention to? And that first step is, how do we ensure that we're bringing in the broader population into this conversation? And so I will share with you, I think that there are 4 areas in which we have some real opportunity, right? This conversation needs to start off with becoming clear about what it is that we're doing and how we're doing it. Can anybody tell me which way the cat is going? Which way is the cat going, folks? I'm sorry? All right, I'm going to bring it into this right now. The cat's going whichever way I decide it's going, all right? But why am I sharing this? I'm sharing this because if you look at trend data for the last decade plus, I only want you to look at the trend of these. Each of these represents different substance misuse levels of our young people. And the trend is going in a positive direction, except for the one that's ironically green, which you all might have guessed is about marijuana. We can talk about that in just a moment. But in a real sense, we have been doing a better job of helping to prevent young people from engaging in substance misuse throughout our communities. And I'll show the data in another way, right? These are the data that was reflective of those high school seniors between 1976 and 2019 who said that they have abstained from all substance misuse, right? And look at the trend line that's going in. That's going in a very positive direction. And here's the point that I want to make. If we don't do anything else, our job is to make sure that these trend lines are going and continue to go in this direction. Does that make sense to anybody here in the room? And so here's what I want to share with you. I've heard time and time again this phrase that the war on drugs has, you can complete it for me. The war on drugs has what? What have you heard? The war on drugs has failed, is what I've heard. But what I will share with you is the data says a very, very different story. And the fact of the matter is that we need to... Yes. Yes.
Is everybody having a hard time hearing you?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Everything I said up to this point has not been important at all. You didn't miss a thing. You didn't miss a thing. Here's the deal. What I want to share with you is that we have to be clear about the effectiveness that we're actually having. Because the fact of the matter is the great work that you all are doing is actually having some profound effect. And so, here's what I want to say. I want to put it to you in this way. Hamjambo.
Hamjambo.
Hey, abariino.
No entiendo.
Ni vizuri sana kuwa nyumbani. Ninyi ni watu vizuri. Mungu awabariki. Mambo sawa sawa.
Sure.
Mambo sawa sawa. All right, New Hampshire, there's not a mambo or a sour in the bunch. All right, here's the deal. Here's the deal with that. I actually happen to, anybody at least recognize the language I was speaking? Swahili, that's exactly right, I happen to be the first in my family that was able to not only go to the continent, but spend a good bit of time on the continent. And I found I had a propensity for a language I had never heard before. What I actually said is I said, hello. I said, how are you? He got that at least. I said, how are you? I said, thank you for making me feel at home. I said, you all look beautiful. Forgive me, sir, I don't know the word for handsome. I said, God bless you all. I'm excited. Let's get started. I'm excited. Let's get started. I'm excited. Let's get started. Was there anything wrong with what I said? Of course not. Of course not. You just could not engage with me. Well, I will just say this. I've been to community after community after community after community where there is no shortage of individuals that care desperately about the work that we all are doing and want to be invested in. The congressman and the senator talk passionately about those who care desperately about this issue. And when they come to us and they ask us how we can be engaged, what I find too many community coalitions doing is saying, yes, you can be engaged. And they say, how? They say, you can do the strategic prevention framework. The strategic prevention framework is a 5-phase process, and that 5-phase process is also similar to a process called communities that care. And communities that care is another 5-phase process, like collective impact. And collective impact is a 5-phase process that has a backbone organization. But if you don't like that, then you can have that social ecological model. And that social ecological model will lead you to a social development strategy. That social development strategy also talks back to social ecological model, which will really lead you to an asset-based community development process. And if you have that asset-based community development process, then you need another 40 developmental assets. And those 40 developmental assets have to be about getting into a social investment strategy, which must be guided by the social determinants of health. And the social determinants of health leads you to screening, pre-intervention, and referral to treatment. And if you have all that, then you have health and all policies, and health and all policies must be placed into context. If we're going to be successful in engaging others outside of this room in the very urgent work that we're doing, we have to speak in a language that they can understand. There is no doubt that every one of these tools are effective in helping us to achieve the goals that we have to achieve. But it's kind of like, I love gardening. No, that's not the truth. I like a good garden. My neighbor has a really good garden. I see the tools my neighbor's using. I get in my car, I drive to Home Depot, I get those same tools and bring them back. And how many of you already know that my garden still looks nothing like that? This is because prevention is more than a science. Prevention is a craft. It is a thing that is a skill that we can get better at. And here are the 4 ways in which I believe that we can get better at it, right? Helping our communities to prioritize, helping them to concretize by focusing locally, making sure that we're able to align our strategies so that we might be able to find our strategic leverage with the issues that we're trying to see change, and to engage effectively and equitably. I have a couple more ideas and then I'm out of the way. First, even though we are seeing a great deal of progress being made with respect to the misuse of prescription drugs, what these data continue to show us is that it still is an issue and a problem within our community and our society that we have to attend to. And that when they ask those who have misused prescription opioids in the last year where they got those pills from, the great majority of them got them from friends and family members. Right? So that's in our wheelhouse. That's something that we can affect. That's not going to happen through legislation. That's going to happen because we care enough to make a difference in terms of that. I want to share with you that contrary to popular misconception, medical initiation is not the majority pathway to opioid use disorder. Rather, that the great majority of persons have shown that they have had previous troubles with other substances. Here's the point I want to make. Those were extraordinary heroes among Dr. DuPont, Dr. Bertha Madras, and Dr. Caroline DuPont. And what they did is they went over a bunch of data, and what they asked is 2 really important questions. They asked, is the use of any one substance by adolescents associated with the increased risk of any other substance, regardless of sequence? And they asked the addition to that question, is non-use of one substance associated with decreased risk of any other substance? Let me share with you some extraordinary data. SAMHSA has now changed the way they collect information as a result of Drs. DuPont and Madras bringing this to their attention. And what we now have opportunity to see is where the relationship of one substance misuse has to other substance misuse. And what you're seeing right here on this screen, here you go, is the red indicates no past opioid misuse, the blue indicates any past year opioid misuse, and its relationship to other substances, marijuana use, heavy alcohol use, which is excessive drinking, cocaine misuse, methamphetamines, and major depressive episodes or our mental health and well-being. Bottom line here, the importance of this data says the significant difference when those who are engaged in the misuse of opioids with any other substance. Does that make sense to anybody? You guys clear on what it is that I'm showing you here? It is powerful. It is powerful. Let me share with you kind of the inverse of that, because it's not merely opioid misuse. Marijuana contains a serious risk for polysubstance misuse. Look at this. No past year marijuana use. The blue represents any past year marijuana misuse, and the green indicates past year daily or almost daily marijuana misuse. The greater the misuse of marijuana, the greater the likelihood that they were also engaged with other substance misuse. Does that make sense to anybody here in the room? And so, this, I may be run out of New Hampshire for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because there's a plane that's waiting for me. We don't have an opioid crisis as much as we have a polysubstance misuse crisis. Does that make sense to anybody here in the room? And so here's what I want to share with you. What it is that we have to do. What it is that we have to do. I was in New York City not too long ago, and I don't know if you guys got anything like this here in New Hampshire. I didn't do that kind of checking, but I was walking in New York City a while ago, and there's this brightly colored truck. Right? Anybody remember the ice cream trucks when we were younger, right? And where I used to come from was Mr. Softy. Mr. Softy would come. I would come running, right? Right. Well, this truck was brightly colored, and it had some music to get some attention, and this lovely lady stuck her head out, and here's what she said to me verbatim. She said, "Hey guy, don't be shy. Come get high. I got your gummies, I got your candies, I got your lollipops. Don't be shy. Come get high." I looked at her and said, "Can I take your picture?" And here, at the time that I actually took this picture, recreational use was not yet legalized in the state, right? And so, in fact, they weren't selling anything on this truck that had a THC value that would actually get anyone high. So they were actually selling a lot, right? But how many of you will agree with me that getting people high was not the purpose of this truck? What's the purpose of this truck?
Conditioning.
Say it again.
Conditioning.
Conditioning. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Say it again. Say it. What else? Desensitizing. Normalizing. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Right? In all the ways that we say it. And here's what I want to share with you. If you don't remember anything from this presentation, remember this. Normalization equals invisibility. When you normalize something, you make it invisible. How many of you will agree with me that some 15 years ago, even in New York City, a site like this would have been jarring, right? And now we just walk by and it ain't no thing, right? When you normalize something, you make it invisible. The job of prevention, the job of everyone in this room is to make the invisible visible. Does that make sense to anybody here? Just like the top of the stairway needs to be made blatantly visible for those who are in danger of being harmed. Does that make sense? And so, here's what I want to share. The conversations that we are having is not about this, but about this. The invisible dangers that are associated represents the difference. The difference is that potency is different. When you change the delivery mechanism, it shows, all the science says, that usage goes up. We are now dealing with the increased dangers, as Celeste pointed out earlier, with young people vaping this substance and not recognizing the dangers that they are placing themselves with. And synthetics we are all familiar with, and I believe John may be coming up and talking a little bit about some of those dangers. Here's what's here's what's invisible to our nation. This is now over 1 million more folks who now are reported with a marijuana use disorder in our society. We don't hear anything about this. Dr. DuPont and the Institute for Behavior and Health has started a campaign that they refer to as the One Choice Campaign. And the One Choice Campaign says that the goal that we all have is to ensure that no one under the age of 21 should have any use of alcohol, nicotine, marijuana, or any other drugs for reasons of health. Despite all the strategies that you all are employing, this is a message of hope. And the data proves and suggests that this is something that is attainable, achievable. But the challenge is, who's the messenger? Should it be me in a suit and tie talking about grandkids? Or would it be better served by the young people that are here in this room? Here's the point that I want to make to you all. If you don't know the latest TikTok dance, get out of the way. Honestly, I tried my best with one of them. And then I posted it on Facebook. I'm sorry, guys. But here's what we have to do. And then the last point that I want to make, is that we have to think about those who are at greater vulnerability within our communities. We are on a very, very steep learning curve here in our community. And forgive me, I hear this popping. I hope you guys can discern what I'm saying in the back. But you're hearing things like cultural humility, discrimination, disparity, disproportionality, implicit bias, inequity, and racism, blah, 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 and all these things that are vitally important. The important thing that I want to share with you is that these are more than mere words. This is not about us learning new language. It's about figuring out how do we apply ourselves to making sure that we are achieving help for those that have the greatest vulnerabilities in our community. And so, if you look at this, many of you are familiar with this picture, but I love it because it's a really clear example of what it is that we're talking about when we speak about equity. Right? The top row shows justice. Right? We provide equality to everyone. We're treating everybody the same. But the bottom row indicates just how fallible that approach is. Because what you really want to do is you want to provide the right sources in the right context to the right folks. Does that make sense to anybody? Yeah. And so part of what it is that I want to share with you is that if we're going to spread this message beyond ourselves, then we have to rethink this river story that if you've been in prevention for any length of time, you've known about, right? Anybody here familiar with the river story? The river story, two guys standing beside the bank of a river. They see, and they're fishing, and they see in the middle of that river a young child drowning in that river. So one of them throws down their fishing poles, jumps into the river, swims out, brings that child back to the shore, calls a very expensive ambulance to nurse that child back to health. Goes back the next day, and this time they see two kids drowning in the same place. They both throw down their fishing poles, jump into the river, swim out, bring them back to shore, call two very expensive ambulances to nurse them back to health. Go back the next day and they see 8. Next day they see 12. It is not until they decide they're going to go upstream, go towards the top of the river, to find out why they are falling into the river in the first place. And this has been the message of prevention for the last 20 plus years that I've been associated with this field. It's almost been exclusively what our message has been. But how many of you will agree with me that that tends to neglect the fact that there are actually some folks that are downstream still drowning, right? And so what we need to do is we need to recognize that while we may all be in the same river, we're not all in the same boat. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that we change our story by thinking about who's downstream consistently and why are they downstream? And what is it that we might be able to do about that? So we have to have consideration. I love the bottom part of this. It says, without a deliberate focus on health equity in our strategy development, we may actually be doing some unintentional harm as a result of that, right? One very, very, very credible science-based effort that looks at this suggests that most policies and most strategies are fascially neutral, meaning they're race silent, right? They treat everyone, or intended to treat everyone, the same, but not racially neutral. They can have a negative or a positive racial impact. When racial impacts are not consciously considered during the strategy-making time, or the policy-making time, or the law-making time, then there's more of a likelihood that negative racial impacts will occur. Implicit bias tends to be the default, which means we have to ask some really important questions. And questions are vital for us when we're going through this. And if you don't mind, I just want to play one quick. Can I play one quick game with you all? I promise you there will be a point. Manchester, you okay with that?
Yes.
All right, very good, very good, very good. So here's what I want to do. I want to do this. Your tablecloths. What color are your tablecloths?
White.
I promise you no trick questions. How do you spell white? Again, I promise you no trick questions. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to ask you, what color is the tablecloth? I want you to say white 3 times and spell it 3 times and say white again. At the end of that, I'm going to ask you a simple question and we'll see what we come up with. Are you getting Manchester?
Yes.
What color is the tablecloth? White, white, white. W-H-I-T-E, 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 white. What do cows drink?
Milk.
Who said water? Who said water? Were you prepared, my friend? Were you prepared? Excellent, 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 excellent. When's the last time y'all saw a cow drink a glass of milk? That's all right. That's all right. What happens in Manchester will stay in Manchester. But why did I do that? Why did I do that? Excellent, excellent, my friend. Excellent. Why did I do it? I did that for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because when I was first introduced to this work, a man by the name of Dr. Cooper, and he actually stood in front of the room, and I was actually so sure of my answer, I actually jumped up and yelled, white milk! Now, it's one thing to be wrong, it's another thing to be both loud and wrong. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. But the other reason I did that is because it was an exercise in conditioning. And basically, I only spent 30 seconds, my friend here understands it, spent 30 seconds to condition us to think about the color white. And then I asked you a very simple question that many of us got very wrong. That's okay. And again, your secret is safe here. How often are the responses that we are providing to our communities based on how we've been conditioned? What I love about the Raymond Coalition, what provides me hope, is that your job is to stand in the gap, to become disruptive, and to make sure that our communities break out of the conditioning that they are undergoing right now. Everybody here in the room knew what the answer was, but what did it require? It required us to stop, to think first, and then respond, right? This is why you hear Celeste talk about risk factors and protective factors. This is why you hear Celeste talking about the 7 strategies. This is why you hear her talk about a logic model that is vitally important to the work that we are doing. So there are questions that we can ask ourselves that helps us to be able to do the work that we're doing better than we have. And so we have to have an equitable engagement approach as we continue to do the work that we're doing. Valuing all individuals and populations, recognizing and trying to rectify some of the historical injustices that have occurred in our communities and our societies, and to make sure that we are providing resources according to need. This is what equity will begin to look like. And so, thank you for continuing to build the bridges that are necessary for us to do this work even better. I want to share with you a couple of extraordinary resources, partnership and relationship with the Drug Enforcement Administration, important effort that's ongoing on Operation Engage. John may be able to speak on that just a little bit. I also happen to be on the board of an extraordinary national organization called the National Alliance for Drug Endangered Children. If you don't know that resource, you should know that resource. Look us up. We are here to try to provide additional help and support to you all, and it's aligned exactly with who you all are and choose to be. Here are some important books. I get not a dime from any of these folks, even though I'm sharing this all across the nation. But some extraordinary books. And if you're interested in the marijuana conversation, I have not found a better book than Smoke Screen by our good friend Kevin Sabat. It is extraordinary, extraordinary. Everyone should have the opportunity of meeting their heroes. I had the great privilege of meeting and actually working with one of mine, the late great Congressman John Lewis. And we're all familiar with, or we should be all familiar with, our important work and effort in his work that he referred to as getting into good trouble. And what that suggests to us, he says ours is the struggle of a lifetime, or maybe even several lifetimes, and each one of us in every generation must do their part. You guys are leading the way. Here are a number of recommendations that I'm offering us to get into what good trouble might look like on behalf of us. But all that really means is it's time to get disrupted and become disrupted. So what provides me with hope? That's what I'm supposed to be talking about. That's Ethan Courtney. And those are the twins. I know, right? That's Valentina Carlton. And like I said, it came to me like 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, I promised their parents that I would take all the grandkids to Disney World. So I'm broke right now. I don't know what I was thinking at the time. The Disney magic is that somebody can come there and somehow you just give away money and you just don't care. That's the picture of when they met, I believe, the only African American Disney princess in Tiana. Right? And Valentina actually has on her gown. And so when Tiana saw that her gown was actually there, she got excited and made my grandkids feel extraordinary. Spending time with them, and doing that things. And something clicked when I saw this. I was taking the picture. Because in this moment, my granddaughters believe with everything in their being that they live in a world where they too will be able to grow up and become a princess. And there is nothing to get in their way. What gives me hope is that every person in this room shares my commitment to getting our world a little bit closer to the one that they believe they're living in. I want to thank you all for the time. I want to thank you all for being who you are and for doing the work that you're doing and loving my grandkids enough to make this world a better place. God bless you all.
Was he not amazing? Next up, we have Dave Mara from the Hampshire Governor's Office. He has something special for the coalition. Thank you very much for joining us.
No, Carlton, I think everybody in this room feels like I do. I felt like I just drank 3 Red Bulls. Now I have to read a proclamation, blah, blah, blah. But I just want to congratulate your organization, and 20 years is quite a thing in a small town to be able to build and build and build. And then you have the data to show how effective you've been. We've made some progress in New Hampshire since 2013. I think all of you knew or heard that we were called the drug den, and another time we were called, you heard written in the paper about being number 2 in drug deaths in the country. That was based on the CDC. They based it on per 100,000 drug overdose deaths. And we were indeed ranked 2. It's good to say we're now ranked 22, so we've made progress. But we still have a long way to go. We made some great progress on overdose deaths in our state, where we had a big drop-off in 2019, then COVID hit 2020, 2021, we were level, the rest of the country was skyrocketing. So we were holding steady. It's unfortunate we weren't going down. I hate using numbers for drug overdose deaths because they represent people, and I always feel bad afterwards we're talking about people, but the data is important. So talking to the medical examiner office recently, we are, with the last 2 weeks, unfortunately we're going to be hitting a little bit of an increase this year. But I can say that traveling around the state, where you have an organization and you have somebody like you that in a town like the work you're doing, if every single town 20 years ago, city and town in New Hampshire, 20 years ago, had the Raymond Coalition of Youth and had somebody like Celeste, we would be 22 in drug deaths. So it's amazing what you're working with, and it's inspirational. So I'm going to get to the blah, blah, blah part. But one other thing I wanted to mention. This is one of the, it's election season. And it's pretty bad out there. You know, people are sniping at each other, you watch TV. But one thing I can say, since I've had this job, I've had it for 5 years, one thing I can attest to, this is truly a bipartisan issue, trying to stop these deaths. And our federal partners, you've heard from them, they have done a great job getting us funded. And we have a governor who truly is passionate about ending these drug overdose deaths. So it's a good combination to have. And we don't see it that often, but it's good. I wish we were like that in more issues. So the governor wanted me to come here and read this commendation. So, a commendation for the Raymond Coalition for Youth's 20th anniversary. Whereas the Raymond Coalition for Youth is celebrating 20 years of promoting healthy choices for youth at risk of suicide and struggling with substance use, and providing life-saving support to young people and the community as a whole. It continues to embody a kid-led, adult-supported effort to address needs and concerns of our youth, and is committed to engaging, educating, and empowering youth voices. It is data-driven. It's a data-driven coalition that tracks the successes and identifies areas of need through New Hampshire Risk Behavioral Survey. They are committed to building relationships in community, and providing resources to support prevention, treatment, and recovery from the substance use and the mental health issues. Therefore, I, Christopher Sununu, Governor of the State of New Hampshire, do hereby commend Raymond Coalition for Youth, and they celebrate the 20th anniversary, and wish them continued success in the important work they do with kids in the Granite State. And slowing the time down since your speech, since your presentation, I feel like I should go out and have a cigarette or something.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. All right, next we have some special recognition. I would like to call Devin Tonti, Pat Arsenal, and Jackie Reynolds up. They're going to help with the presentation of our awards. first award is our Community Partner Award, and it's being presented by Deputy Monty.
Turn it the right way. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here to celebrate our 20 years with the Raymond Coalition to you. We are really honored that you all could be here today. This organization that I am presenting this award to has been serving our community for decades and has been part of the Raymond Coalition for Youth from the very beginning. We want to express our deepest gratitude for this organization's collaboration and dedication to the Raymond community, our youth, and every age in between. This organization offers a chance to socialize and meet people with similar interests, an important benefit in itself. It has been proven that physical and social benefits of indoor and outdoor activities can lead to increase in confidence, improved creativity, self-esteem, as well as self-reliance. These programs would not be possible if not for the creative minds of its staff, their dedicated collaboration efforts within other organizations within our surrounding communities. Not only does the balance of work and recreation improve our physical and mental health, it also positively influences our occupational, emotional, and social health and of well. It is also a known fact that communities who participate in sport and recreational activities develop strong social bonds, create safe places for our community members, as well as reduce stress and give participants a sense of accomplishment. This group is always there to share their ideas, support programs, and help with collaboration and planning. They have been part of the RCFY in many roles since 2002, all of them appreciated beyond words. It only makes sense that they are our 2022 Community Partner of the Year. It is my honor to give this award to the Raymond Recreation Department for their dedication, commitment, professionalism to this community and beyond. They give all ages in our community hope every day.
They are amazing. They are the backbone of our community and the work that gets done with our kids, and we're just super, super grateful for all they do. All right, the next up is our community leader. Pat, will do this one.
So unfortunately, the recipient of this award could not be here today. We actually might have presented it yesterday to some of their staff, but I'm going to say a few words about them anyway. Hands up if you're from Raymond, familiar with the businesses in Raymond, know a lot about it. Keep your hand up. Count the digits on your hand. That's how many pizza places we have in town. Small little town of Raymond has 5 pizza places, and you're going to need to put the other hand up soon if you want to acknowledge Domino's coming in as well. And you want to talk about data, I bet if you run the numbers, we have the most pizza places per capita in the state. But anyway, one of those pizza places has gone above and beyond the call of duty every time they have been reached out to by not just RCFY, but other organizations as well. Going way back when I was the one trying to get all the free pizzas for a family fun night, I'd call up every place and they'd offer us discounts or whatever, but there would be one place that would say, what is this for? All right, I can give you 10. Give you 10. No questions asked, no charge. That place is Pizza by George. And right now, their owner Joe has been out. He's giving his support to people who are more important to him than his restaurant, and that's why he couldn't be here today. But if you get a chance, stop by Pizza by George, give him a congratulations, and let him know how much you appreciate what they do for our community.
They are very good to all of us. Next up is our Youth Leader Award being presented by Jackie Reynolds, who is our Senior Youth Action Leader.
So the person that's getting this award, I really would like to commend their dedication towards RCFY. They've done, in the time that they've been here, they've done lots to promote our goal and our mission, and they've reached out lots, and they've had many conversations, they've started many conversations, and they have just done, all that they could in order to spread the good word of RCFY. Your leadership and your public speaking skills has been present since day one, and that's something very, we're very grateful for that. When you speak up and you share your voice with your information about the issues that are important to you and affect your peers in your community, you help to make a difference in our world. Ever since you joined, I just could tell that you had that spark in your soul, and you were really just such a great representative for RCFY, and I'm very, very excited to give this award to you. Kaylee McGlynn.
Well, what a pleasant surprise. I'm really thankful for all RCFY has given me. I've had such incredible opportunities of using my voice in law. I'm thankful for all the people that I've met and the people that I've worked with. Some of my favorite memories are going to the State House. I went to the House of Reps for HB 1598 and the Senate bill. And when we sat through the 3 hours of deliberating in the Senate, everyone was pretty tired and miserable. It was a lot to hear. But I just kept thinking about how grateful I am to have this opportunity to speak up and use my voice in the youth. And as soon as we heard that it was officially killed, we got out. We first got lunch because we were starving. And we just celebrated because this is what we had been working for so long. And I am just so ecstatic to have all of these great memories and all these great people that I've met. And everything that I've done, I'm now a senior in high school, and I'm getting opportunities from pre-law universities for my work in RCFY. So I just want to give a special thank you to Mrs. Baker and Celeste because they're a friend, they're a mentor, I can tell them anything. A thank you to my family who has instilled this spark in me and saying to know something is to fine. It's fine to say no, and that to live a drug-free life and to live a pure life is a good one.
Jackie, you're next. Oh, she has to get her prize. Okay. Congratulations, Kaylee. Kaylee, as she mentioned, was up in Concord. If any of you have ever testified in Concord, it's not easy to do, and a couple of other of our young people did it as well, and she just did a fantastic job. So proud of her. I'm going to introduce Jackie again. Jackie Reynolds is with Youth Action, and she is going to start our Youth Action presentation.
All right, hello again, everyone. So I would like to introduce the RCFY Youth Action to you guys. If anyone is a bit unfamiliar, I would like to give my stance on what it means to me to be a part. So RCFY Youth Action unites a group of kids from our community who are dedicated towards drug prevention and mental health awareness. Through RCFY, we're able to get our voices heard and speak on matters that directly affect the youth. It's important that we do this because we get to take part in creating a healthier future for our town. I've been with RCFY for 6 years, and throughout that time, I've learned valuable things about how I can help my community as an individual or as part of a group. I've found my voice through writing speeches for awareness, conversing about change that needs to happen, and speaking out about the problems that I see around me. I learned that I can have an impact on the people around me, and that I have the ability to do good with that. That's true for everyone, kids and adults alike. We all have something to contribute, and through our CFY, people like me are able to get their voices heard at bigger levels like this. Our topic today is hope, which can be found in many different things for many different people. Hope can be an outlet, an activity, a person. You can be a source of hope to someone. Today, our group wanted to discuss the things that give us hope, and why it's important to contribute to the hopefulness of others. We wish that everyone here will leave with a better understanding of hope in the eyes of the youth. And with that, I would really like to welcome my RCFY peers up to the stage to give their perspectives on hope. Something that gives people hope. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hi, I'm Jackie Reynolds. I'm in 12th grade.
I'm Lillian Allen, I'm a sophomore. Hi, my name is Alicia Call, and I'm a sophomore at Raymond High School.
My name is Anna Kartz, and I am a sophomore at Raymond High School.
My name is Colin Gilbert, and I'm a freshman at Raymond High School.
My name is Kayla Lynn, and I'm a senior at Raymond High School.
I'm Ava Lynn, and I'm a sophomore at Raymond High School. I'm Kaylee McGlynn, and I'm a senior at Raymond High School.
I'm Caitlin Cooney, and I'm an 8th grader.
I'm Clayton Kramer, and I'm a sophomore at Raymond High School.
I'm Xavier Wenzel, and I'm a freshman.
I'm William Sawyer, and I'm a freshman. I'm going to start our hope. Progress is fundamental in hope. Even the smallest bit of progress can show us that true change is eventually possible. Hard times are not going to go away overnight. It takes time. If your grades start to get better slowly, it will show you that all of your hard work was not for nothing. It gives us a reason to keep going. It gives you a reason to believe that you can, and seeing is believing. We all want to give up at some point, thinking that sticking to something that will make us better is pulling us to the end. But when we look in the mirror at the end of the day and see that we are getting better, that things are getting better, we no longer have to wonder if we're doing the right thing, because we can finally see a clearer and closer future we've always been wanting. And that is what true hope is, seeing a brighter future is near.
Hope is part of the human experience. We use it every day, for example, hoping that the school day will go by faster, or hoping we know how more. Hope is a common theme in stories, those about our past and those that take place in a galaxy far, far away. Some hopes are small, like hoping my team wins a game. Others are more grand, like hoping to go to college and to have a family. During the pandemic, we all hoped that things would go back to normal. We need hope, so I hope you all have a good weekend.
Positive reinforcements are one of the more substantial and most impactful things that an adult or parent could do to give us hope. Compliments are probably the most common positive reinforcement given to students. To many students and members of the youth age group, talking to a trusted adult can be relieving and beneficial.
I'm reading for Brody because he couldn't make it, but through others we find hope. At times the world will break us down and kick us to dirt. Yet our friends are the ones that build us back up and get us to our feet. The friends that we make along the trail of life are the ones that keep us on that path. Knowing that you have a good group of friends that will stand by you and help you in times of need is a powerful reminder of hope. Your friends are the light in any dark times you may be going through. They are the ones that show you the good out of all the bad. Through others we find hope.
Hobbies are a unique source of hope. They provide a form of escape, a way to de-stress, a way to get our thoughts out. a way to express ourselves, and a way to connect. From drawing, writing, singing, dance, photography, all of it. These are outlets, but they are not always seen as a way to connect. All of this is not exactly my topic. Parents and other adults tend to brush these things off, even if unintentionally. When we show people our art, writing, lyrics, photos, any of our work, and they shut us down, they are shutting down our attempt to express ourselves and our emotions. They are unintentionally telling us that this part of us isn't something people will like, and that we ourselves are not likable. Our hobbies are often much more, and when our interest in that part of us is encouraged, it gives us hope that we can do what we love and connect to people through it.
Many children develop hope at a very young age. Children from a very young age are constantly emotionally belittled by adults, and their problems and struggles are criticized and seen as less important than problems that adults can have. Just because children are younger doesn't mean that their problems are smaller. Parents can make an advancement in their child's growth and give them more hope by being there for them when they are upset and really trying to understand them. Children sometimes get frustrated with things that they do not understand or cannot comprehend. As a parent, instead of belittling your child's issue, try to help them through the problem that they are facing. This will help you better your relationship with your child and also help them later in life, teaching them to understand that their problems and struggles are important as well.
Hope is defined as an optimistic state of mind that is based on the execution of positive outcomes with respect to the events and circumstances in one's life or the world as a whole. And to be honest, I had no idea how to expand upon that and explain to you guys what gives us hope. That is until I had a conversation with one of my teachers. He asked me what gave me hope, and I couldn't give him an answer at first. I sat there for a good 5 to 10 minutes, not coming up with anything. But after a few, I began to tell him that the only time I have a minute to think is when I am communicating with my friends. And at that moment, I realized what I wanted to talk about. Healthy communications and connections to your friends or the people around you can be one major source of hope. I've been through a lot in the past year, and every time I felt absolutely defeated, the girls at my dance studio would then pick me up off the ground and tell me everything was going to be okay. Being a part of the chorus at Raymond High School has also added so much hope to my life. I've met the most amazing people through the chorus who have slowly helped me piece myself back together. Those are some of the personal examples of how beneficial communications to positive communities can be. So I'm a bit of a Hunger Games nerd, so that's where this next part is coming from. So in the Hunger Games trilogy, Cornelius Snow says that hope is the only thing that's stronger than fear. A little hope is effective, and a lot of hope is dangerous. What Snow is putting into perspective in that quote is how powerful hope can really be. One healthy communication to a large group of people through a sport or a club can increase somebody's hope. Although during the process of preparing for the summit, I have learned that everyone defines hope differently. For some, hope is their sport. For others, it's their pet. I define hope as the amazing people I get the privilege to call my friends. How would you define hope?
When parents only focus on bad grades and never praise the good ones, kids can start to feel hopeless. Without hope, the reason to keep going, people can crash quickly. Highlighting a single C instead of the A's can make kids never think what they do is good enough. No matter what they do, they will always think, what did I do wrong, and not that went well. They'll also reach out less, stop trying to get help, or stop participating in things where they wouldn't be chosen. All of these things can severely limit a child's opportunities later in life. They can also affect a child's decision-making skills. They won't want to try and get into colleges or clubs because they could potentially not be fit in them.
Something that gives people hope is having a good support system. When someone has a group of peers and adults that they can rely on, it makes them feel more comfortable with expressing themselves, both their triumphs and their troubles. Something you can do to bring hope to the people around you is letting them know that you are there to offer help, guidance, or even just a listening ear. Listening to someone, accepting them, and helping them out can make them feel more comfortable and safe. Being part of somebody's support system can substantially impact how hopeful they are in life, since they know that someone's there for them.
all did a super job. Thank you very much. They are awesome, aren't they? They're very, very good. Now Alicia has a few more words for us. Alicia is Miss Raymond, in case anybody was wondering.
Thank you. So, I'm Alicia, and not only am I a sophomore at Raymond High School, but I have been a part of the RCFY Youth Action Group for a little over a year now. The summit last year was the first RCFY event I had ever attended, and it was an experience I will never forget. So, I'm currently the reigning Miss Raymond. I won that title over in July, and I have decided that I want to use my title to talk about things that are really, really important to me. So what I decided to talk about was mental health and suicide awareness and prevention. It's been important to me for a very, very long time, and I bring it up at our meetings all the time. I never stop talking about it. And so this is a speech I gave at the summit last year, if any of you were there, but I still think it's extremely relevant, and it's one of my favorite things I think I've ever said to a crowd of people. So I'm gonna go ahead and give that to you guys again. So, are you okay? Have you taken the time to ask the people around you if they're okay? No matter how happy, no matter how upbeat and fun, have you asked them if they're okay? Probably not, because we see a smile on someone's face and assume they're okay when they're not. But taking the time to ask that question might just save a life. Suicide's a tricky thing. A lot of people avoid talking about it, and too many think it's their only option. Either way, it needs to be talked about. We need to know what we can do to help the people who need it. And you might be thinking, no one in my life would ever even think about that. I know I did, but I stand corrected. A few years ago, I had a friend of mine try. Luckily, she's still with us, but that changes you. Knowing they could be gone changes how you look at the world. It changes how you look at a smiling face. I know when I see someone smile, I think about whether they're really happy or struggling like my friend did. But we can help prevent this. Yeah, there's no way of telling if someone is 100% okay. But asking someone if they're okay, whether they're laughing or crying, could help. Along with knowing if they come up to you, telling you they're struggling, and telling you they're thinking about these things, that you won't be mad. The people in your life need to know that you will be there for them and give them the help that they need. You could reach out to them if you haven't heard from them in a while. All you can do is make sure the people in your life know you're there for them, and you will do your best to help them, and you can ask if they're okay. Sometimes that 3-word question means more than you could know. So, I'll ask you again. Are you okay?
Our kids are pretty amazing, I think. They make me very proud every day. Okay, with that, our next guest is John DeLena of the DEA. John is so special that he got whisked away to Washington, D.C. for months, and we were missing him greatly. Now I'm told he's back in New Hampshire for good, where he belongs, so good.
It was actually 1 year ago today that I did. The new administrator from DEA called and asked me to come down to Washington, D.C. to help her with her congressional and public affairs and also her outreach. And while I'm very, very comfortable here in New Hampshire, my home and the job that I have here and my house and my family, when you're passionate about something, when you're so passionate about something, sometimes you have to get a little bit uncomfortable, to do what you believe in. And even at this point in my career, 27 years with DEA, I'm so driven by what we're dealing with, and we do things a little differently here in New Hampshire, Carlton. We met years and years ago when we started this whole outreach thing with DEA, what was DEA 360 back then, which is now Operation Engage. But I've always said, and I used the opportunity for the last year to tell Ann Milgram, the DEA administrator, every chance I could, that we do things differently in New Hampshire. New Hampshire truly is the gold standard for how we respond to this crisis, and we've heard a lot of people talk about the great work of outreach here in New Hampshire and some of the challenges, and I think I'm just going to use a few minutes to talk about what I think are the biggest challenges that we're facing right here in this country. We have two cartels, the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel, who have a business model which is relentless expansion and widespread addiction. What they want to do is addict every single American with drugs like fentanyl. That's what their goal is, and they won't be happy unless they achieve that goal. Many people ask at all these events where I speak, excuse me, why would they create a substance like fentanyl that ultimately is killing off their customer base? And this is the reality of the challenge that we have. And the truth to that answer is this: they don't care. They would rather addict everybody, but if they kill 107,622 Americans like they did last year, 107,622 Americans were poisoned last year. 66% of those were due to synthetic opioids like fentanyl. They just don't care because they know there's 400 million Americans somewhere behind there, and their goal is to reach them in any way that they can. Carlton mentioned the war on drugs. We look at it now like we're in a race to save lives. That's really what this is about. We need to educate and inform as many people as we can, and the reason why I flew home last night from a year in Washington, D.C. to be here today is because I believe so much in what the Raymond Coalition for Youth does, and when I see these kids up here and I listen to what they have to say, that's my hope, that someday I will be able to stop coming out and I can retire, hopefully, because there are so many young people that are going to pick up that ball and run with it, because we need to do that so badly right now. They are trying to reach, these cartels are trying to reach our youngest people on social media. Their efforts are unparalleled, trying to get to young people on Snapchat, Instagram, and TikTok to try to sell these fake pills that are made with nothing but fentanyl inside them. It's the most deadly thing that we've ever seen across this country. We talked before here in New Hampshire about 2 years ago when we first started seeing fake Adderall pills that were made with methamphetamine. And I thought at the time it was the most insidious thing I'd ever seen these drug trafficking organizations do, because in my opinion they were simply targeting the youngest generation by putting something like methamphetamine in a substance that children and young people in America thought was Adderall. And they doubled down on it, and what they've done now is they've taken those same fake Adderall pills and now they're just putting fentanyl in it. Because the goal of the cartels to addict everybody, they would rather addict them on a substance like fentanyl, sadly enough, because you have to keep coming back for more. And fentanyl in this country has become the ultimate shapeshifter. They're putting it in every single substance that we can imagine right now. That's why we see mass casualty overdose events where people thought they were using cocaine or thought they were using methamphetamine or heroin, only to find out that somewhere along the line in the supply chain, these cartels decided, we just want you to be addicted to fentanyl, so we're going to put fentanyl inside it. And that's why we see incidents like what happened in spring break, where we have naval cadets who went out and made a bad decision and bought what they thought was cocaine, and it turned into a tragic decision because we lost some of them, because somewhere along the line somebody put fentanyl inside it, and they had no intention of ever using fentanyl. We talk about all the great work that we've done here in New Hampshire, making naloxone and Narcan readily available, but if you're somebody that thinks you're using a substance like cocaine, maybe you're not prepared to have Narcan readily available. So we're going to continue, sadly, to see those numbers rise. 107,622 reasons why we have to show up at events like this, but it can't stop here. I think I said last year, well done is better than well said. We can sit in here and talk about it all morning, but what we do when we leave here, what the young people that already stood up here very bravely do in the coming days, weeks, months, and years of their life will shape how this country responds to this. I've said over and over again, I think back in 2017, the first time I met Carlton, I believed back then that there will be a period in this country where people are going to read about what happened in our nation's history. And when I was saying that back then, it was when we had 80,000 Americans dying of a drug overdose or drug poisoning. Now we have 107,000. And I still believe that there will be a period where we look back in history book and they look and say, what happened in our country? That, first of all, it just became acceptable. That more people weren't rising up and saying, what is going on in our nation, in our communities, in our homes, that we're losing so many people to these drug poisonings. But what I think is more important is what that next chapter will be, which is, what is the response going to be? How are we as Americans going to push back on this, and how are we going to defeat that? How are we going to defeat those two cartels, by the way, which is what what drives me every single day. But how are we going to get our communities to pay attention, to listen, to understand just how dangerous and deadly these substances and these fake pills can be? And that response is what drives me, and that's what, coming to a meeting like this, to see so many people celebrating, the great work of the Raymond Coalition, but understanding that we all have to go home and we all have to have those conversations, whether it's for Drug Take Back Day, which is tomorrow, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., at about 200 locations throughout the great state of New Hampshire, where sometimes we get as much as 15,000 pounds in New Hampshire in 4 hours of unneeded, unwanted, or expired medication. Carlton mentioned a lot of times this stuff, it begins in people's homes, so we have to get that out of harm's way and safely dispose of it. We need to make sure that we're doing that. We need to make sure that we're putting people in a position, because, well, relentless expansion and widespread addiction is the goal of those cartels. It's what we do in response to it that matters now more than ever before. We have never seen a deadlier drug than fentanyl. It's become more and more deadly in the time that I've seen it since 2015-16, when it first made its tragic appearance here. We've seen a rise in methamphetamine throughout New Hampshire. Tragically, we talked about it, Jay Fallon and I talked about this a few years ago from HIDA, talked about how we saw this coming. That was just a mechanism to get more people using drugs by these cartels, and then they want to make that shift and get them shifted over to that deadliest and most addictive substance of all. The last thing I want to say is, you'll hear me use the word poisonings. This is language that we've adopted now more than ever, because so many people don't intend to even use this substance. So many people, we had 100 families come to DEA headquarters back in June for what we call the nation's first ever family summit on the overdose and poisoning crisis. And we spent so much time talking to parents who lost children to one pill. Children who they hadn't even begun to experiment with anything, who during COVID and all the other stressors that were on them made one bad mistake and either shared a pill that somebody had given them, or went online, went on Snapchat, went on a social media site and had a pill delivered. And sadly and tragically, these people found these children dead. We started family Faces of Fentanyl Memorial in DEA headquarters, where we asked people if they wanted to submit a photo. We would memorialize them in DEA headquarters, and really for us it would be to supply the why. Every single day that we show up for work, we would walk by and see these faces. What started out with a couple hundred photos now has over 4,000 photos in the lobby of DEA headquarters. We've outgrown it. We're having to turn it into a digital platform because we have so many people that are sending pictures in. Pictures that represent people from 17 months old to 70 years old. This drug does not discriminate. It does not discriminate. And with all the great work that we do here in New Hampshire, our law enforcement partners, our congressional delegation, the governor, who has definitely led the way in this whole thing, but really, we all have to do more. We just can't stop. We have to be as relentless as those two cartels, because they don't stop. They're not bound by any rules. They're not bound by any laws. They have unlimited funds. So it truly is an adversary that we've never seen before. But you have to understand, the one thing I always try to do whenever I come here or anywhere else is just tell you the truth. You have to know exactly what's going on out there. They are right now, every single day, flooding these drugs into our communities. And New Hampshire is not safe from it. We know those cartels have reach here. We know that we're seeing more and more fentanyl and more drugs like methamphetamine than ever before, more and more fake pills. The fake pills to me are the most disturbing trend that I've ever seen, because so many people just don't understand how deadly those pills can be. So with that, I'll shift it back to empowerment. And you know, it truly is about informing, especially our young people, so you can make good, healthy, empowered decisions. You can lead a drug-free life. You can, you know, be able to speak up and be leaders within your own friend circles every single day. We rely upon you to do that. And I can't tell you how much respect I have for you, first of all, and how much I appreciate every single thing you do every single day. Thank you to Celeste and everybody else. Thank you.
In your folders, one of the handouts that's in there is from the DEA. John supplied the coalition with that. And we used that. Pam had that at the high school this week and had a couple of different venues on the table, and it sparked quite the conversation. So that form, if nothing else, can be a conversation starter with people. It's Red Ribbon Week, as you mentioned, so it's a great opportunity to have that conversation about how these things are so dangerous. Okay, no, I was talking to that, sorry. I want to thank you all for coming. Carlton had asked when he was doing his presentation for anybody who was a preventionist in the room to raise your hand. And I absolutely love the response that Tim said next to me. We're all preventionists in this room. So all of you are here to make a difference in someone's life. And I might add, Tim is a graduate from the Raymond Coalition for Youth Action, and he's joining our board of directors. And I'm very excited. In the room when the coalition first started back in 2002 and our very first youth group started, Miss Carly Hughes is in the room, and she was a member of that starting group, and I'm so excited to have her here as well. We talk about the sustainability, and Alex Cooney is also here in the room. He is at Columbus State right now. So we talk about the sustainability of this organization. They are the sustainability of this organization and keeping us going, as well as the high school members who are here today. I thank all of you for being here. Thank you all for being a part of the coalition and help us continue our work. And I don't know if you saw that one of our youth is wearing this shirt. This is a campaign for Red Ribbon Week. The kids designed it, and all 3 of our schools had students wearing these shirts this past week. So that's an example of our community working together. And anybody who is involved in the t-shirt campaign needs an extra pat on the back because distributing these t-shirts is not easy. As you're leaving, I want you to stay and talk, network if you'd like, but as you're leaving, Crystal Kettler, who was our health teacher, she's now our FCS teacher at the middle school and a huge proponent for the coalition and a great baker. And she baked special cookies for everybody to take one when they're leaving with the 20-year coalition logo on it. So you can have that cookie and read a book when you go back to your office. Thank you, and to quote Austin, I hope you have a great weekend.